Yeah, well, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us. We're excited to have John and the DigiPro team back for round two of some webinars. This is such a hot topic in the industry right now. We are really excited to be able to partner with you guys and extend your expertise to our membership. You guys did a great webinar I guess about a month ago now, and for those of you who have not seen that one, it is up on the FRLA website, so definitely check it out after this one. And with that, I'm gonna turn it over to you, John, to introduce your team and get started.
Okay, perfect. So I appreciate that. So Sally, I'm going to mute your line real quick. Okay. And then just to make sure everybody knows, this is an interactive webinar. We want you to ask questions and we want to be able to help you. And it's a conversation that it's a little bit different than what you're used to when it comes to, at the end of the day, DigiPro, we're a media company. We build websites. We help companies grow their online brands. And we got into the accessibility space probably around 4 or 5 years ago. One of our board members was a military veteran and was blind. And we were building out a not-for-profit site that he was a part of, and when doing that, there was a big thing to consider because he couldn't see the website. So we had to make sure the website was accessible for him. And again, this was, gosh, I think 4 or 5 years ago now. So we got into the world of accessibility when it comes to building out websites, and we'll get into a little bit of that in the background. But what I want to do today is just make sure you understand the differences. DigiPro Media is our company. We are a media company based in Pensacola, Florida. We're super excited to be partners with the FRLA and help with this. And we have a plugin, which is another product called A.Pro. And A.Dot I'll explain a little bit later in the presentation. A.Dot Pro exists to help people build quick, easy solutions for accessibility and helps you get off the radar for some of the lawsuits that so many FRLA members have been a part of. So I'm going to recap the first probably like 8 to 10 slides, or a recap of my first webinar we did on this, but I think it's important that we bring some of the stuff back to light. Some of you, I'm looking at the attendee list here, and some of you I don't recognize, which is great. So I'm going to make sure that I can recap on what we talked about last time and then kind of dive in, and then eventually I'm going to introduce Stephanie. So first question, and again, this is interactive, so you got to help me with this, is in the chat box, the ADA trivia question number 1 was, when was ADA written into law in the United States? Just give me your best guess. All right, we see some answers coming in. And just so you know, I can see if you're not responding, so I can call you out. So don't sit back and I'll do anything. So, okay, we got a couple responses coming in. Yep, looking good. All right, so I've got several ranges here. I have all the way as far back as 1970, and I have as recent as late 90s. So correct answer here is actually 1990. And so in 1990, the ADA law was enacted, and it basically prohibits places of public accommodation like restaurants, hotels, etc., from discriminating against individuals with disabilities. However, when this law was written in 1990, the federal government did not have any idea of how this was going to affect places on what is considered property, which is your website, and the federal government today has still not offered official guidelines on how the ADA applies to websites. So this inaction on their part is causing a lot of uncertainty and trying to help figure out how this thing works. So something I want you to wrap your head around, though, is how did you access the internet in 1990? So really think about that. Go back, rewind a little bit, and think about, what did you do on the internet in 1990? Because this was something that is a very thought-provoking question. And yep, so somebody said an AOL CD. AOL was in the mid-90s. I had one person said nothing. Yep, that's a lot of people did not interact with it. So what I did is went back and got a little trivia of my own, a little research, and this is actually a screen of the first public web browser. It was invented in 1990. So it was called the World Wide Web, which was later called Nexus, but this was what it looked like. It's very different than the internet that we see today. And I only bring that up because while a law was written that long ago, it's affecting people today. And if you want to learn more about that, I put the URL there at the bottom. And this organization, W3, is actually, or W3C, is one of the organizations that helps lead the charge in accessibility and making sure that the web has certain guidelines around it. So in talking about those guidelines, if the federal government doesn't give us those guidelines, what do we use? Because we were all getting pretty excited because in late 2017, there was a lot of ADA laws and rules that were on the table, but everything got wiped off. So this is one of the websites, links there at the bottom, go check it out, that kind of goes through in a little more depth that they nixed all the pending ADA rulemaking. So we're still in the same boat, which is it's a little bit of the Wild West when it comes to how this stuff works. Under what we build and how we build accessible sites, we follow WCAG 2.0 level AA guidelines. So I know that's a mouthful, but what that stands for, WCAG is Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. So that is a standard. It's like 400 different guidelines that helps navigate us to make sure the web is accessible. I'm just curious here again, another last ADA trivia question, we're going to get into some more content, is has your business or your friend's business been sued under ADA law? And I'm not just talking about web ADA, but just ADA in general. Okay, we got a couple yeses here. Okay, one person said, yeah, my shopping cart on our website. So if you've been engaged with an ADA lawsuit, if these things, if you don't know what to look for, it's sometimes very hard to turn around and fight them, and they get very expensive. And what we're going to talk about today a little bit more in detail now is how ADA law relates to your website. And I'm going to really try to make this simple and easy to understand, because when it comes down to is you have your place of business over here. Then you have a website. This website is considered a property of your business. This website contains information like menus, contact information, specials, different locations that you might have, hours of operations, just to give you an idea. On the far right here, you have the ADA impaired individual, and that could be a multitude of different things, and you have your non-impaired. Now, under ADA law, you cannot discriminate. The information has to be accessible to both parties. So simply put, your website must provide equal access to all the users who are visiting, and if you're not building it properly from the start and you're not putting the right things on your website to clarify how your site's being done, you can get hit with a lawsuit. Again, this goes back to the Department of Justice is not giving us that clarity of what is or what isn't, so we are going back and using these WCAG guidelines, and we've seen successful. Now, if you're avoiding, or if your website was not built under these guidelines, you're not using accessibility statements, what happens is we end up getting lawsuits. And so we get these on a weekly basis. Just this week, I've received 2 more from clients in the state of Florida alone that have been sued under an Title III ADA law. So what I want to do now is actually show you what it says, so you have an idea that if you receive one of these summons, you have an idea of what they're looking for. Now, I will say that there's no one standard for every single lawsuit we've seen. There's a couple different variations that come through. But let me show you one that we recently, and we did talk about this on the last webinar, is this was an introduction. So in the introduction of this lawsuit, it basically said this person was a blind and visually impaired consumer, and that basically the website did not comply with accessibility laws. Furthermore, this is section 14. What it goes through here is talks about how the screen reader software is the primary method which a blind person may independently use the internet. The guidelines that the website, international website standards are, going back the WCAG 2.0 AA, this is what we follow. This is what we keep seeing getting named over and over and over again. So it's the resource that we use to build out sites and to build out our products to make sure that it's accessible to this screen reader software. If you wanted to wrap it up, this section right here, section 20, went through the access barriers of the website. So let's talk about that for a quick second. Accessing barriers. So one, here, the text equivalent for every non-text element is not provided. So anything that's a non-text element, a screen reader has to have a description of what that element is. If it's left blank, screen reader can't use it. Going down here, the web pages do not have titles that describe the topic or purpose. So if you build out a standard site, and let's say you used a WordPress or a Google GoDaddy by night website, or anything, if you don't go through and describe the things on there, you're giving barriers. The big one here, and we'll talk about more of this later, is there's no accessibility statement regarding a company's policy to assist disabled users found on the website. This is a big one because accessibility statements, when written properly, let me keep in mind, we are not attorneys, we are web builders, so any accessibility statement you get, have it vetted by your attorney. there's my disclosure there, is a good written accessibility statement has been able to show to get people out of these summons, because if you have an accessibility statement, you're giving the person the ability to get in touch with you or interact with your business, and you're not creating barriers for them, then it does show a case study there that you're able to then get in touch with the person, they can get in touch with you, and you can work through the barrier that they were having. So I know we talked a little bit about screen readers, and I want to mention the two biggest ones that are typically used on the internet right now. This left version is called JAWS, and that JAWS screen reader is very popular on Windows-based products. Over to the right is the Apple-based, which is called VoiceOver. So like it has it on your Macs, it has it on your Apple devices. We're actually going to actually do a demo today with JAWS, and I'm going to basically share my screen with one of my partners here at DigiPro. Her name is Stephanie. Stephanie is legally blind, and she's actually going to use the JAWS software. We tested this out yesterday, and it worked pretty good. Sometimes the audio is in and out, but I think it will give some people a good idea of how people interact with the internet using a screen reader. Now, these are the brands that have been sued under ADA Title III law for their websites. I bring this up just to say it's a lot bigger situation than some people give it credit for, because if you're not looking for it, sometimes you might not notice it. But on the top, I'm sure everybody's familiar with the brands at the very top here, potentially all the brands there in the middle. On the bottom, though, these are just local businesses in Florida that we've been coming in touch with that have all been sued under ADA law. Miami Grill, actually, they were sued 3 times before we got in touch with them, which I'm going to show you a version of their website that we helped them set up also. So I've been talking here for a couple minutes. I want to just pause for a quick second and just ask, are there any general questions so far about some of the topics we talked about? I know some of this stuff is confusing or kind of outside the box if you've never looked at it. Okay, so right now I'm not seeing any general questions come up. Keep them in the back of your head. At any time you have one, you can just go ahead and pop it in the chat box, because I can always go back and reference it later. It gives me a nice little Rolodex of the questions that are coming in. Okay, so with that being said, what I want to do now is I want to introduce Stephanie. Stephanie works here at DigiPro. She's one of our QA testers. And let me give you a little background on Stephanie. She is a college graduate. She had graduated college with a 4.0. She's an ambassador and a board member for Independence Through the Blind, which is how we were able to come in contact with her. She's an award-winning ballroom dancer. This is a picture of her. You actually can see a video of her on YouTube doing ballroom dancing. She is absolutely outstanding. So what I'm going to do is she's going to come on, and she's going to use her screen reader and go through what is called a links list. And a links list, what it does is actually provides the user the ability to read the website. So let's go here. Let me get Stephanie's. All right, so give me a second. Let me turn over controls to Stephanie's computer. And I have Savannah with her. Savannah is going to be helping us get everything set up. So presenter. Okay, so Savannah, Steph, y'all should be good to go. Let me know. All right, perfect. I can see your screen. Steph, go ahead and say hi to everybody and go ahead and introduce yourself.
Good morning, everybody. I am Stephanie Bollinger. I have been completely blind for almost 7 years, and I've been working here at DigiPro for about 2 months now as the accessibility tester. So today I'm going to show you a website of ours, a client of ours who we are currently rebuilding them a new site to make it accessible. So I'm going to show you their old site. We've received permission from them to show you the inaccessibility of their old site. And then I'm going to show you one of the websites for another client of ours who we have made completely accessible, just to show you the difference and the difficulties that I face on a regular basis. Let's see here. Okay, so the website that I'm going to show you to begin with, I'm going to take you through the McGuire site and their menu and also their photo gallery. In order to move around the internet when I'm on a website, what I have to do is use what I call my links list. The links list helps me to get to every single link, different pages on a website. I'm going to pull that up and show you what that looks like. Okay, so that is what my links list looks like. And I'm going to go on ahead and go to the menu page. Okay, now that I'm on the menu page, I'm going to scroll down so that you can hear what I'm hearing. And as I go through, I'll stop my JAWS software so I can explain a couple of things to you and the issues that I'm facing. Okay, so far it's looking like it's going to be okay because it's telling me which locations and the hours.
Link graphic images.
And now, as you can see, I am facing a major problem because it seems to me that there actually is no listed menu. Nothing telling me what food items they have, no descriptions of those food items, no prices. But it looks to me, as far as hearing wise, that I am reading an image. So when it says graphic lunch menu or graphic dinner menu, first of all, I'm thinking that that would be a picture of the menu. However, I do know from working here that that is a PDF document, which is another major obstacle because I'm not able to access these PDF documents. So there's no way that I would know if I want to go to this restaurant or not because I do not know what kind of food they serve. I do not know their prices or anything of that nature. So it's a major issue for someone like myself that has any kind of disability like this, especially a visual impairment. So I'm going to go from here. Speaking of graphics, I'm going to take you to the photo gallery and I'm going to let you see what I'm reading and kind of explain to you the importance of me having a description on a photo.
And y'all can hear Jaws talking in the background. That audio as it comes in and out, that's reading itself to Stephanie. And so Steph, okay, you're good to go. You're on the photo gallery.
Yeah, we just still have to give it a second because sometimes even though it's loaded, JAWS is a little slower. There we go. Okay, so as you can hear, there are over 600 photos in this gallery. So now I'm going to scroll down and let you hear what some of these pictures are telling me.
So on the audio right now, Steph, I can hear when you click on it, the audio wasn't coming through. And we tested this yesterday and it was in and out. And I can tell y'all what it reads. It's reading the image file name to her, not a description of what the actual image is. And there's 600 images on this page, none of which have any kind of description to it. So as she's tabbing through, JAWS is just continually reading a bunch of alphanumeric information back to her.
Okay, and the reason that to me that's an issue is because sometimes whenever I want to go out to eat or maybe go to a local venue and listen to some music or a comedy show. I want to be able to look at the photo gallery, read the images, and kind of get a good visual of what the food may look like or what the venue may look like, what kind of fun everyone's having. That's important to me. A really good description is going to tell me whether I want to go spend my money and my time at this location. So I'm going to go from here now, and I'm going to take you to a website that we have recently built and made it completely accessible, and walk you through their menu and show you a photo from their website with a description on it. I'm going to pull up my links list here. So as you can see, when I'm scrolling down, it is giving me different links. So it's not all one big jumbled mess. It's different links giving me the appetizers, the lunch, dinner, and so forth, all the way down. So for now, I'm going to click on the appetizers. Go down here. Let's see what the soups are like.
And Stephanie, you're gonna have to let us know so I can hear Jaws in the background. It's not coming through completely clear, kind of like we saw yesterday. Sometimes it was in and out. So as it's reading it to you, you can let everybody know on the webinar what you're hearing, and that way they can get an idea of what is the audio getting pushed back to you.
Yeah, I am. I have to listen to it first though to know what it's reading, and then I was gonna describe it out to everyone what's
Perfect.
going on. So right now I pulled up the soups menu, and I have crawfish, corn chowder. Let's see, something took me further down. All right, I'll just take you to the chili. Okay, so I know that the cup of chili is $3.95. And it tells me that it, what it's coming with. So each item is giving me the item itself, the price, and a description of what it comes with. So when a food menu has the prices like this, that really helps me a lot, as well as with a description and listing out the food items. When I'm looking at these websites, I'm definitely going to go to this restaurant opposed to the other restaurant because I know exactly what's on the menu. Before I get there, I know exactly what I'm going to have, and I know that I can afford to eat what I have chosen. So one of the major difficulties in life for someone who is blind or visually impaired is we do go out. We are just like everyone else. We do go enjoy dinners either by ourselves or with friends or family. The major issue comes in when we want to go to a restaurant or a venue and we're like trying to pick out what we're going to eat once we get there, and we cannot access these menus on the website. I'm not going to go because I know that if I cannot find what I'm eating, I'm going to have to embarrassingly sit there and have someone read me out a menu as if I'm a child, and then I'm going to have to ask over and over again, how much does that one cost? How much does that one cost? because I may not be able to afford what's on the menu. So I've come to the point in life that if I'm not able to access these websites, I'm not going to go spend my money there because it's embarrassing to me, and it's just an inconvenience, and it's inaccessible to my life. So I'm going to go to a restaurant that I know I can read the menu, that I can read the prices, and that they've made everything completely accessible to me.
Well, I
So,
appreciate it.
sorry.
No, that's great, Steph. I'm looking at the time here, and I know we have one other. I got a couple more slides. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up my screen again, and I'm going to go through a little bit of explanation on how the links list is pulled up, and that way we can have some time to take some questions at the end.
Okay.
All right, so y'all should be back on my screen, and what you saw here is, let me turn this. So what you saw when she was pulling up the links list, I just want to be clear, that's actually pulled up by the way your code is written on your website. So if you look on the back end, this is the back end code for the website, and you look at the highlighted areas, the links and the titles and the references are all listed in the code, which is what drives that links list that she's able to use. When you use this correctly, then it actually helps the navigation come through and it reads back very good. The other use case here is this is the way Google reads your website. Google reads this. It doesn't see what images or any kind of flashy stuff you have on the homepage. It's reading your code, and the better descriptive text you have, the better you have with that. I know that's probably something some of y'all have never seen before, is actually seeing a screen reader work on the website. What I'm going to do here is go through a couple quick options that you have, and then we're going to open up to questions for myself or Stephanie at the very end. So in doing this, the case studies here, you have an inaccessible website, for example. What do you do about it? So part of why we partner with the FRLA is we have several solutions. The first two I'm going to give you is, first, you could install an ADOT Pro plugin on your existing website, and I'm going to show you what that is in a second. The second, you could build a brand new website from scratch. So if you're in the business for looking for a brand new site, we have a platform that you would build. You would find the accessible template that matches your company's theme, add your content inside of it, and the website comes out in an accessible version, and it's actually a very good looking website. The last bit is, if you have a website, you could also always hire a programmer to go in and apply WCAG guidelines to your existing site. And you can find those programmers on Odesk, freelancer.com, etc. The average cost we find to redo the coding is around $45 a page. So based on how big your site is, that gives you kind of an estimate of what it would cost to fix it to go to complete accessibility. I mentioned earlier about ADOT. What it is, so this is a case study from Miami Subs. Miami Subs was, again, I think they were sued two or three times for web accessibility. We've installed our plugin on their site. As you'll see at the bottom left here, there's a button there that says accessibility, and when you click on it, it actually moves to a parallel website that we built for them that is a compliant version. This compliant version has all the features needed to be able to interact with a screen reader. It also has, so the screen reader there is actually built in. It has a visual aid tool. So if somebody that is visually impaired, they could increase the size of the font. They could change the background color for contrast. It also comes with that accessibility statement we mentioned earlier. That's very important, that if you're going to remediation, or you have a website that you're looking to fix, you need to make sure you have a very clear accessibility statement built in. And at the end of the day, this thing is built in a completely compliant format. Now, this does help get you off the radar for some of these ADA lawsuits, but it is not the end all be all. If you have a good accessibility statement and you have the compliant version ready to go, in Florida, you can have up to 10 years that you could help dismiss some of these cases. Other states, the laws are a little bit different, but in Tallahassee, they did pass a law last year that made this, that if you have an accessibility and you're in remediation, you cannot be sued under Web ADA. So with that being said, I know we're getting close to the end of our timeline here. I'm just gonna open it up for general questions about the webinar, about websites. If you have some certain cases in your business that you're dealing with that you wanna ask questions about, now's the time to do it. At the very end here, I'll move to this slide. This is my email. You're welcome to contact us afterwards if you have any further questions, but let me check our question box here. Okay, so the first question is, how long does it take to put ADOT on your website? We have a SaaS platform, so you can actually log in today, set it up, and install the plugin code on your website. It literally takes less than 5 to 10 minutes. If you're not a techie person and you would like us to do it, we can help you. We have a support option that does that for you. So the answer to your question, ADOT could be live on your site within a matter of minutes. A full built-out version takes less than 24 hours. Good question. Okay, can I explain the PDF issue a little bit better? Yes. So what Stephanie was looking at was a flat PDF image. That flat image it's just like what I said, it's a PDF, but it is flat, meaning that you can't read the text on it. A good way to find out if the PDF has readable text is take your cursor and try to highlight the text. So if you're on this webinar and you own a restaurant and your restaurant uses PDF menus on your website, you have an ability, you can make those accessible, but there's a version you got to buy of Adobe or set it up that way. It's not your standard save it, leave it up there. If you have a flat image of a PDF, it will not be able to be read by a screen reader. Another good question. All right, last question here. Yeah, so if you have video, the question was regarding the video. If you have video on your website, that video you need to have captioning or transcribe it so somebody who is deaf could read it. Also, you need to be able to have it where you can have the subtitles built in. Netflix, for example, if you want to type in Netflix, ADA lawsuit, web ADA, they're hiring, I can't remember the number, but it's hundreds of people to actually go in and just transcribe their movies that they currently produce that we all try to watch. All right, the last question that I'm going to take here. So the question here is, laws are changing regarding the notice of ADA compliance at the physical restaurant site. So the laws are changing, but we have not seen the laws being written in yet where it actually gives you the ability to have that notice and fix your website. If you're given a summons for a lawsuit, that summons is going to describe what actions the person is asking you to take to fix it. And we have seen that in some cases, we've been able to install or fix their website, and they were able to, within the time frame, reply back, show that accessibility is now in place, and remove the lawsuit. The final end-all be-all there is going to have to be passed on a federal level, and we just haven't seen that happen yet. So it's kind of going down by the circuit courts, and it's changing, but it's not 100% ironclad yet. Okay, last question, and then I'm going to turn it back over to Sally. So the question is, can you briefly talk about the slider images and how to make them accessible? So if you have a slider on your website, it works the same way as a regular image. You still have to have alt text that describes that image. If the sliders come across and they're not described, Stephanie is, and like her, when you saw her using her reader, it's just going to say clickable 1, clickable 2, clickable 3. And I mean, let me unmute you here, Steph. I'll let you explain that to them, because Steph, can you go ahead, tell them, if you see, you use JAWS software, and we know that JAWS can sometimes be finicky. If you see a link that is not clearly described, tell us what your opinion is when you're trying to use it on a website.
Okay, if I come across a link and it just says clickable, or even if it just says link but does not tell me at all what it is, I absolutely will not click on it and try to figure out what it is, because with the JAWS software and some of the other softwares that I use, and I click on certain links, it actually can mess up my software if I end up somewhere that I didn't mean to go. And so then I have to restart everything all over and try to figure out what the issue with my software is. So I just will not access anything that doesn't tell me what it is.
Thank you, Stephanie. All right, so we are running out of time here. Sally, I'll bring you back on so you can say everything. And listen, I appreciate you being here today. It was, I know, kind of a different webinar than we did last time. We wanted to actually show you the use case behind building good, accessible websites. Sally, if you have anything else, we'll go ahead and wrap it up.
Great job, guys. I just thank you, Stephanie, for jumping on. I think that was really helpful to see some of the daily struggles that you go through while trying to access these websites. It definitely gives a good background and a better picture of why all of our sites need to be accessible. And thank you very much for joining us. And thanks, John. Great job. And definitely, if anyone has any questions, they're welcome to reach out to you. I'm also available, and that's all I have.
All right, y'all. Everybody have a great day. We will have this on a recording. We typically have these up in a couple days, so check with us later in the week or first of next week, and
we'll send out some notifications too once we get this up on our site.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate it, y'all. Have a great day.
Thanks.